Welcome to the Peaceful Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Rosensweet, mom of 3 young people, peaceful parenting coach, and your cheerleader and guide on all things parenting. Each week, we'll cover the tools, strategies, and support you need to end the yelling and power struggles and encourage your kids to listen and cooperate so that you can enjoy your family time. I'm happy to say we have a great relationship with our 3 kids. The teen years have been easy and joyful, not because we're special unicorns, but because my kids were raised with peaceful parenting. I've also helped so many parents just like you stop struggling and enjoy their kids again. I'm excited to be here with you today and bring you the insight and information you need to make your parenting journey a little more peaceful. Let's dive into this week's conversation. Hey all, welcome back to another episode of the Peaceful Parenting Podcast. When you are hearing this, it is September, and that means that everyone's back at school, and you may be experiencing what we call the after-school meltdown. Maybe your child was fine at school all day, and then when you pick them up or they come home, they just fall apart. This can happen at any age, from little kids up to teenagers who can get really grumpy and almost tantrumy when they come home from school as well. So let's look at why that happens and what we can do about it. First, let's talk about one of the more obvious things that sometimes, even though it's obvious, we don't think of it. They might be hungry, especially those little ones that can't wait to get out to play on the playground and they don't eat their lunch so they can get out more quickly, or they're too busy and, distracted by their friends and they don't eat. So make sure that you feed everyone as soon as possible. Maybe even have a snack ready when you pick them up, or give them the rest of their lunch that they didn't eat or whatever. Being hungry can definitely make people low on resources and make it harder for them to keep it together. I think that happens to the best of us. So just, cross that big one off your list. Make sure that you offer food as soon as you see your child after school. Another big reason why our kids melt down when they come home from school is that they've just plain old run out of willpower. So if they work really hard to follow all the rules and be good at school, they may have used up all their ability to keep it together. So I think all of us have been familiar with that. Maybe we promised ourselves we weren't going to have any sugar for the day, and then we're really strong, but then we break down at 11 o'clock at night because we've used up all of our willpower. Or, we are patient with our employees all day at work, and then we come home and yell at our kids. We really all have limited resources. So we have to adjust our expectations, knowing that if our child has used up all of their willpower at school, they might fall apart when they get home. And just expect that. Know that your child has worked really hard all day to keep it together, and your kid's teacher might even comment on that of like, oh, they're so good. They, follow all the rules and they're a leader and blah, blah, blah. But then we think, who is this child when they come home? But if we can adjust our expectations, then we can stay more calm and we can be more compassionate when they're melting down on the floor, just because we've asked them to, hang up their backpack, or because we didn't have the right snack. We were mindful to bring a snack, but it wasn't the right snack or whatever. So if we find that difficult, we need to give ourselves an attitude adjustment. So just remember, your child is doing the best they can. You've probably heard me say that a million times if you follow me in my work and you're in my community, but it's so, so important to remember when our child's having that meltdown because they've been keeping together all day, they're doing the best they can. They're not giving us a hard time, they're having a hard time. That mindset shift is important all the time in peaceful parenting, but especially when our child is melting down after school or doing anything that's really difficult for us to deal with. So they're having a hard time, they're not giving us a hard time, and they're doing the best they can. And I know that because we are programmed and wired as humans to be in close connection with a caregiver. And if we're acting out of alignment with that, then there's something else going on, right? They're low on those resources. The third reason our child might be having an after-school meltdown is that they have a full emotional backpack. What's an emotional backpack? It is a peaceful parenting analogy that was developed by my mentor, Dr. Laura Markham, and it's a metaphor for the body. So when we go throughout our days, or when our children go throughout our days, there are things that are going to happen, emotions that they feel, big emotions that they feel. Maybe their friend wouldn't play with them at recess. They're going to experience tensions or stresses. Maybe the teacher scolded them or even yelled at somebody else, which is going to affect them if they're a sensitive soul. Or maybe they just miss you. And if they're an older child, maybe they have, more social challenges or academic challenges. But whenever our kids are out in the world, or we are for that matter, we're going to be experiencing big feelings, tensions, stresses things that we can't necessarily process in the moment, or that we don't want to process in the moment, or that we don't feel safe to process in the moment. Right? If you have a bad day at work, you're probably not going to sit and cry at your desk. You're going to keep it all together until you get home. So what do we do with those feelings that we can't process or don't want to process in the moment? We hold on to them in our bodies or in our emotional backpack. So we might get a full emotional backpack. And those feelings in our emotional backpack build up inside of us. They go underground and out of our conscious control. And so we hold them in our bodies until they can surface and be healed. And so what happens when our child comes into a safe place, or when we get home and, when we're with our partner and we feel safe to let those feelings come bubbling up. And of course, it's not a conscious process. They will just come up, right? Because the body wants to heal itself. So what happens is everything that's in that backpack can come tumbling out when your child gets home from school. It doesn't mean that your child had a terrible day or that there are things that you need to worry about them. The normal course of a day can give a person, a child, or an adult for that matter, a full emotional backpack. We don't need to know what's in the backpack. It doesn't matter. Just know that there are feelings, tensions, stresses that need to come up, be expressed, be healed, see the light of day, and then they'll start to dissipate. It's sort of like if you have, I know this has happened to me, like after a hard week, you watch a movie on a Friday night and it's a sad movie, but it's not that sad, but you find yourself just bawling your eyes out. On the surface, you're bawling about the movie, but really you're releasing all of those tensions and stresses from the day. So maybe your child's crying after school because, you cut up the apple wrong, or you won't let them have any tablet time or whatever. They're actually crying about that thing, but they're also releasing all of those feelings from the emotional backpack. So what can you do if your child comes home with a full emotional backpack and they're prone to meltdowns? If you can, anticipate the meltdown and get them laughing, that can take the edge off of that full backpack. Laughter also helps us release all those tensions in our bodies and helps us process the feelings. So if your child's not at meltdown point yet, but you know that it could be coming, or that that's what happened historically, get them laughing after school. Get them roughhousing. I have a guide that has lots of laughter ideas. We'll link that in the show notes. You can download it if you're not sure how to get your child laughing. But spend 5, 10, 15 minutes just doing some laughter, roughhousing, silliness, and that can be enough to really ward off that after-school meltdown. If it's already happened or the laughter isn't enough, really try and welcome the tears. So if your child's upset about something, really, really pour on the empathy. Oh my goodness, you didn't want me to cut the apple that way. Oh, I'm so sorry. This is so disappointing, or whatever the thing is. Remember, you don't have to agree to empathize. You don't necessarily have to cut the apple again, but if you were going to have an apple yourself, maybe you would. But before even you do that, really just lean into those tears and welcome those tears and expect it if you can after school. Maybe don't make any plans for a little while, especially while we're adjusting to the new school year. And just know my child is going to have some backpack emptying that's going to have to happen every day after school. This is just what they need to be processing their day. So build your life around that, at least for a little while, or, at least the first part of the day if you can. Get that laughter, expect those tears, remember that they're doing the best they can, and just try to help them process their day, process those big feelings. So we've got, low on resources like hunger that could be contributing to the after-school meltdown. We've got the low on willpower, that they've just run out of the ability to keep it all together. And then we've got the full emotional backpack. I read something recently on Facebook that was really beautiful, that combines the second two reasons of that low on willpower combined with the full emotional backpack. And it was called the Coke bottle analogy. I'll put that also in the show notes. And it was a really lovely little story about a child who, goes to school. And I think the child in question in this article was a neurodivergent child. The child goes to school and encounters one difficulty after another, all the while keeping it together. And to anyone looking from the outside, no one would notice that this child was having a hard time. But every time something happened, there wasn't a space for their coat on the coat rack. The author said, shake the bottle, if you picture a bottle of pop. And then the child still keeps it together, goes throughout their day. and something else happens. Shake the bottle again, and then keeps going. And you can picture where I'm going with this. Throughout the day, this child is keeping it together, but the pop bottle, that is the analogy, just like we use for the backpack analogy, a metaphor for the body, is getting more and more pressure built up inside with every shake that happens. And then mom or dad picks the child up at the end of the day, and the top comes off that pop bottle, and everything explodes, and it's super messy. And so that's a really nice way to think about it, I think, is that your child is going throughout the day and things happen. They do keep it together. But when they come home to you, they're just, low on willpower, full backpack of those tensions and stresses, and they just lose it. I hope you found this helpful. At the very least, we can bring more compassion and expect it. At the most, we can sort of lean in and provide a lot of empathy and welcome the tears or get them laughing so that we can help them process those big feelings in the backpack, and just know that this will pass. What I see is at the beginning of the year, there are more meltdowns as kids are getting used to it. And as they get older, they get more and more capable of managing their day. I did mention the teenagers having their after school moments too, but we have to remember that teenagers and their brain development are sort of like big toddlers. I know you can do this. If you are having trouble or you'd like some more support, make sure that you join our free Facebook group, Peaceful Parenting with Sarah Rosensweet. We have a wonderful group of parents in there, and I know that they know what it's like to have that after school meltdown, and you can support each other inside of our group. And let me know what you think about this podcast and if it was helpful to you. Though until then, remember, they're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. Welcome those tears, feed them with those snacks, get them laughing, and I think you'll find some relief from the after school meltdown. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. I hope you found this conversation insightful and exactly what you needed in this moment. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Remember that I'm rooting for you. I see you out there showing up for your kids and doing the best you can. Sending hugs over the airwaves today. Hang in there. You've got this.